This is HOA Control Freaks. And I have the paper trail.
Do not walk away from me. Catherine shouted that my car was a nuisance, and she could tow a nuisance just like any other violation. The tow truck was already backing into my driveway, amber lights flashing, and the driver was unspooling the wheel lift chain like this was the most normal thing in the world. I had my phone in one hand and my folded reflective triangle marker in the other, because I always carry emergency gear for shoots. And I was trying to process what was happening while Catherine stood on my front walk with a zip tie bundle in her fist and a grin that said she had been waiting for this moment. I live in Seattle, Washington, in a townhome development called the Commons at Maplewood Ridge Association, and I have a flight early tomorrow morning for a commercial shoot in Portland. I work as a commercial photographer, which means I always have a camera, extra batteries, and a trunk full of gear, and the last thing I need is to be blocked in or towed overnight. Catherine is the Special Assessment Coordinator for the HOA, which is a title that sounds boring until you realize it means she can invent new charges on the fly and threaten anyone who questions her. She had been circling my driveway for the past week, leaving bright orange violation door hangers on my handle every other day, each one claiming a different infraction. First it was my car being too loud when I started it in the morning. Then it was a guest parking complaint even though I had no guests. Then it was a fire lane obstruction even though my driveway is 20 feet from the curb and nowhere near a hydrant. "Keep arguing. You are making my case for me," Catherine said, stepping closer and waving the zip tie bundle like a conductor's baton. "Every word you say right now is evidence of your hostile attitude toward community standards. I am documenting this interaction, and the board will see exactly how you respond to reasonable enforcement." "Reasonable?" I said, my voice climbing. "You called a tow truck on a car that is parked in my own driveway. There is no violation here. Show me the rule." She pulled a folded paper from her cardigan pocket and snapped it open with one hand. The HOA CC and Rs clearly state that any vehicle creating a nuisance or disturbance can be subject to immediate removal. Your neighbor filed a noise complaint. That makes your car a nuisance. I do not negotiate with violations. I looked past her at the tow driver, who was crouching by my rear wheel now, guiding the tow hook into position. The hook was maybe 6 inches from the tire, and he was moving with the confidence of someone who had done this 100 times and did not care about the homeowner standing 10 feet away. A couple on the porch 2 units down had come outside and were leaning on their railing, watching like this was a show. The woman had her phone out, filming. The man was holding a coffee mug and shaking his head slowly. I raised my phone higher and made sure the frame included Catherine, the tow truck, and the hook. "I need to see the actual complaint," I said. "Who filed it, and when, and what did they claim I did?" Catherine's smile widened. "That is confidential homeowner information. You do not get to harass your neighbors just because they reported a legitimate violation. The board reviewed the complaint and authorized enforcement. That is all you need to know." The wind gusted hard enough to slam a car door somewhere down the block, and Catherine's hood slipped back for a second before she yanked it up again. The tow driver glanced over his shoulder at us, then went back to threading the hook under the wheel. I felt my chest tighten. "I have a flight at 6 in the morning," I said. "If you tow this car, I miss that flight and I lose a contracted shoot. You are costing me thousands of dollars over a complaint you will not even show me." "Then you should have thought about that before you violated the rules," Catherine said. "The association has a responsibility to protect property values and quality of life. If that inconveniences you, maybe you should move somewhere with no standards." I took a breath and forced my voice level. I am recording this entire interaction. If that hook touches my car without a valid legal basis, I am filing a complaint with the city and the state. And I am holding both you and the HOA liable for any damages or losses. Catherine laughed. "Go ahead. The HOA has counsel you will spend more on legal fees than the tow costs, and you will lose. We do this all the time." That line landed like a slap, and I felt a small flicker of clarity cut through the panic. She just admitted they do this all the time. I gave her a small thank you, because she just handed me leverage. I did not say that out loud. I just nodded slowly and kept recording. The tow driver stood up, wiped his hands on his jeans, and called over his shoulder. "Hook is set. You want me to lift it now or wait for the paperwork?" Catherine glanced at me, then back at him. Lift it. She has the authorization form right here. She waved the folded paper again, and I realized I had not seen any actual signature or board stamp on it. For all I knew, she had printed it herself 10 minutes ago. Wait, I said, stepping toward the driver. I need to see that form before you touch my car. If it is not a valid tow authorization, you are committing theft. The driver paused, one hand on the lift lever. He looked at Catherine, then at me, then back at Catherine. Lady, he said slowly, if there is a dispute here, I am not touching the car until it is settled. I am not getting my company sued over an HOA fight. Catherine's face went red. There is no dispute. I have the authorization. This is a valid tow. Do your job. The driver crossed his arms. Show him the form. If it is legit, he will see it is legit, and we are done. If it is not, I am not hooking the car. Catherine hesitated, and in that half second I saw the crack in her confidence. She unfolded the paper again, held it up for maybe 2 seconds, then folded it and shoved it back in her pocket. You saw it. That is all you get. Now do the tow. I did not see anything, I said. I saw a folded piece of paper. I need to photograph it so I have proof of what you claim authorizes this. You do not get to photograph HOA documents without a formal records request, Catherine snapped. That takes 30 days and a copy fee. You want the form? File the request and wait. That is a public shaming tactic, I said, my voice tight. You use theatrics to intimidate anyone who questions you. I know how this works. I have been watching you do it at the meetings. Catherine took a step toward me, close enough that I could see the fury in her eyes. You think you are smart because you have a camera and you read the rules? I have been on this board for 8 years. I know every loophole, every procedure, every way to make your life hell if you do not comply. Keep pushing me, and I will bury you in fines and special assessments until you beg to sell and leave. The couple on the porch was still filming. The woman called out, Catherine, you cannot threaten him like that on camera. You are making yourself look bad. Catherine whipped around and pointed at them. Stay out of this, Rachel. This does not concern you. Rachel, I thought. I filed that name away. She was a witness now, and she had just put herself on record. I looked back at the driver. Are you lifting the car or not? He shook his head. Not until I see a signed authorization from the board and a copy of the violation notice. I am not risking my license over this. Catherine turned on him, her voice rising to a shout. I am the special assessment coordinator. I have the authority to authorize tows. That is in the bylaws. You are under contract with this HOA to respond when we call. Do your job, or I will have your company dropped. The driver held up both hands. Lady, my boss already told me we have had 3 complaints this week about improper tows from this HOA. If I hook a car without clear paperwork, he will fire me on the spot. So either you show me something legit, or I am leaving. Catherine stared at him, and I could see her recalculating. She turned back to me. Fine. You want paperwork? I will get you paperwork. But your car stays here, and if you move it before I come back with the signed authorization, I will have you cited for defiance of a board order, and I will fine you $500. That is not a real rule, I said. You cannot restrict me from using my own car. Watch me, Catherine said. She spun on her heel and marched toward the sidewalk, her zip-tie bundle swinging at her side. The driver watched her go, then looked at me and shrugged. Man, I do not know what is going on here, but I am not hooking your car without something solid. I will wait 15 minutes for her to come back. If she does not have real paperwork, I am leaving. Thank you, I said, my voice shaking with adrenaline. I appreciate you not just taking her word for it. He nodded and walked back to his truck, leaning against the fender and pulling out his phone. The couple on the porch came down the steps, and Rachel walked over with her husband trailing behind. She was in her 40s, with short graying hair and a no-nonsense expression. She stopped a few feet away and crossed her arms. That was unhinged, she said quietly. Catherine has been pulling this crap for months, but I have never seen her go this far. You know her? I asked. Rachel nodded. I am on the Architectural Review Committee. Catherine hates me because I voted against her attempt to ban all street parking last year. She has been trying to get me removed ever since. This is her pattern. She picks a target, invents violations, and then drowns them in fines and threats until they either comply or move. You are her latest project. I felt a surge of relief mixed with anger. Do you have any documentation of that? Anything that shows she has a history of doing this? Rachel hesitated. I have emails, meeting minutes, a few recorded confrontations from the clubhouse cameras. But if I hand them over, she will retaliate. She has already threatened to fine me for unapproved landscaping changes I never made. I understand, I said. But if this goes to a formal complaint, would you be willing to provide that evidence under subpoena or in a records request? She looked at her husband, who nodded slowly. If it is official and my name is protected, yes. I am tired of watching her terrorize people. I glanced at my phone. The recording was still running. I had Catherine on camera threatening me, admitting the HOA does this all the time, refusing to show me the authorization form, and trying to intimidate the tow driver. I had Rachel confirming a pattern of abuse. And now I had the driver himself saying the tow company had received 3 complaints this week about improper tows from this HOA. That was the twist I needed. If multiple residents were complaining, this was not just a personal vendetta. It was systemic. Catherine reappeared at the end of the block, walking fast and waving another piece of paper. She marched up to the driver and shoved it at him. There. Signed authorization from the board president. Now, hook the car. The driver took the paper, unfolded it, and squinted at it for a long moment. He pulled out his phone, took a photo of the form, and then looked at me. You got a copy of your violation notice? I have about 6 of them, I said. All from the past week. All with different claims. He raised his eyebrows. Let me see one. I pulled my phone out, opened the Photos app, and showed him a picture of the most recent door hanger. It had a pre-printed template with checkboxes and handwritten notes in the margins. The driver compared it to the authorization form, then looked at Catherine. This says the violation was reported on the 15th. His door hanger says the violation was reported on the 18th. Which one is it? Catherine's face went tight. That is an administrative error. The violation was ongoing. The dates do not matter. They matter to me, the driver said. If the dates do not match, I do not know if this is the same violation or 2 different violations, and I am not hooking a car when the paperwork is inconsistent. He handed the form back to her. Call your board president, get it sorted out, I will be in my truck. Catherine stared at the driver's back as he walked away, and then she turned on me with a look of pure venom. You think you won something here? You think this is over? I will have that car towed tomorrow. I will have it towed every single day until you move or comply. And I will make sure the board knows you are the reason we are losing our tow contract. I kept my voice calm. You just admitted on camera that you plan to retaliate against me for exercising my rights. That is harassment. That is a violation of state HOA law. And now I have 3 witnesses and a recording. Catherine opened her mouth, closed it, then spun around and marched back toward the clubhouse. Rachel let out a long breath. You need to file a formal complaint with the management company, she said. Tonight. Before she has a chance to spin this to the board. I nodded. I was already planning on it. But I need more than just this recording. I need proof that she has done this to other people, and I need proof that the board authorized her to act this way, or proof that they did not. Because either way it is a problem. Rachel pulled out her phone. I will send you the emails tonight. And I will ask around. There are at least 4 other homeowners who have been targeted by Catherine in the past year. If we can get them to come forward, you will have a pattern. Her husband spoke up for the first time. You should also check the meeting minutes. The board is required to log all enforcement actions and votes. If Catherine is authorizing tows without a vote, that is a breach of fiduciary duty. You can request the minutes as part of a formal records request. I felt the pieces clicking into place. Minutes and quorum logs proving the vote never legally happened. That was the evidence I needed. And if Rachel could get me the emails showing Catherine's history of retaliation, I would have a clear pattern of abuse. I thanked them both, and they headed back to their porch. The tow driver was still sitting in his truck scrolling his phone. I walked over and tapped on the window. He rolled it down. Yeah? I just want to confirm something, I said. You mentioned your company has had 3 complaints this week about improper tows from this HOA. Can you tell me anything about those complaints? He glanced around, then leaned closer. Off the record? All 3 were situations like this. HOA coordinator calls us, we show up. Homeowner says there is no violation. We ask for paperwork. Paperwork is either missing or inconsistent. We leave. One of the complaints went to the city, and now my boss is freaking out because the city is looking into whether we are doing improper tows. If we lose our license, we are done. I nodded slowly. If I file a formal complaint, and it goes to the state, would your company cooperate with the investigation? He hesitated. I cannot speak for my boss. But yeah, I think he would. He is tired of dealing with this HOA. He told me this morning that if we get one more inconsistent call, he is dropping the contract and refunding everyone who complained. That was the ammunition I needed. I thanked him, stepped back, and watched as he started the truck and backed out of my driveway. The wheel lift retracted with a hydraulic whine, and the amber lights flicked off. He gave me a nod through the windshield and drove away. I stood there for a moment, feeling the adrenaline drain and leave me shaky and exhausted. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Rachel. Emails sent. Also, I talked to 2 other homeowners. They are willing to talk to you. Call me tomorrow. I went inside, locked the door, and sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop. I opened a new document and started typing everything I could remember from the confrontation, every word Catherine had said, every inconsistency in the paperwork, every threat she had made. I attached the video from my phone. Then I opened the HOA management company website and found the formal complaint form. It was a long form with sections for violation details, evidence attachments, and requested remedies. I filled it out carefully, included a link to the video file, and listed Rachel and her husband as witnesses. In the requested remedies section, I wrote, "Immediate suspension of all enforcement actions against my property pending an independent audit of the Special Assessment Coordinator's enforcement history, and a formal review of the board's authorization procedures for tows and fines." I hit submit at 11:30 that night. Then I set an alarm for 4 in the morning so I could move my car somewhere off HOA property before Catherine came back with another tow truck. I did not sleep much. Every time I drifted off, I woke up to the sound of a diesel engine in my head, the rattle of chains, the hydraulic whine of the lift. At 4, I got up, made coffee, and moved my car to a public lot 3 blocks away. I left a note on my door that said, "Vehicle relocated. Contact me via email for any further concerns," and I included my email address. Then I drove to the airport and caught my flight. The shoot in Portland went fine, but I was distracted the whole time. I kept checking my phone between setups, waiting for an email from the management company or a text from Rachel. Nothing came until I was on the flight back that evening. It was an email from the management company with the subject line formal complaint, case number 47293. I opened it and skimmed. "Thank you for your submission. Your complaint has been logged and forwarded to the board of directors for review. Please allow 10 business days for a response. A copy of your complaint has been provided to all parties named in the report, including the Special Assessment Coordinator. If you are enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more wild HOA drama." I felt my stomach drop. They had sent a copy to Catherine. That meant she knew exactly what I had filed, exactly what evidence I had, and exactly who my witnesses were. She would have 10 days to prepare a counter-narrative, intimidate Rachel, and cover her tracks. I texted Rachel as soon as I landed. Management company sent Catherine a copy of my complaint. She knows everything. Be careful. Rachel replied within a minute. I know. She already emailed me demanding I retract my statement or face a formal hearing for making false accusations against a board member. I forwarded the email to you. This is retaliation. I opened the forwarded email and read it. Catherine's tone was cold and legalistic, full of phrases like defamatory statements and board authority and formal sanctions. She was trying to scare Rachel into silence. But the email was also evidence. It proved she was retaliating against a witness within hours of learning about the complaint. I saved the email, added it to my growing file, and then called my friend Marcus. Marcus is a local paralegal who helps me organize evidence packets for contract disputes in my photography business. He answered on the second ring. "What did you do now?" "I got into it with my HOA," I said. "I need help organizing an evidence packet before they bury me in procedure." Marcus laughed. "HOA drama is my favorite drama. Send me everything you have and I will get it organized tonight." What is your goal here? I want to force an independent audit of the enforcement actions, prove Catherine has been abusing her authority, and get the board to freeze all enforcement until they rewrite the policies. And I want the tow company to drop the HOA contract so they cannot keep using predatory tows to intimidate people. Marcus whistled. That is ambitious. But if you have the evidence, it is doable. Send it over. I spent the next 2 hours forwarding emails, uploading the video, scanning the door hangers, and writing a timeline of events. Marcus called me back at 10. "Okay, this is good. You have a clear pattern of inconsistent enforcement, retaliation against a witness, and a third-party confirmation from the tow driver that the company has received multiple complaints. The weak point is the board minutes. You need to file a formal records request for the past year of meeting minutes and enforcement logs. If Catherine authorized those tows without a vote, it will show up in the gaps. How do I file that? Management company website. There is a form. It costs like 50 cents per page, and they have 30 days to respond. But if they try to deny the request or delay it, that is another violation you can add to the complaint. I filed the request that night. I asked for all board meeting minutes from the past 18 months, all enforcement action logs, all tow authorizations, and all correspondence between Catherine and the tow company. The form estimated the cost at $73 for copying fees. I paid it with a credit card and got a confirmation email. Then I sent Marcus a thank you text and collapsed into bed. The next morning I found another bright orange violation door hanger on my handle. This one claimed my car had been parked illegally in a fire lane overnight. I took a photo of it, noted the timestamp, and then checked the public lot where I had actually parked my car. It was still there, 3 blocks away from HOA property. Catherine had left a violation notice on my door for a car that was not even in the neighborhood. I texted Rachel. She left another door hanger. Car was not even here last night. This is insane. Rachel replied, "She is panicking. She knows you have her on tape and she is trying to create more violations to justify her earlier actions. Document everything. Do not respond directly to her. Let it go through the management company." I went to work, shot a corporate headshot session, and tried to stay focused. That evening I got an email from the management company. Subject line: Hearing notice, case 47293. My stomach tightened. I opened it. Dear homeowner, the Board of Directors has scheduled a formal hearing to address your complaint and related enforcement matters. The hearing will take place on Saturday, November 9th at 10 a.m. in the clubhouse meeting room. You are required to attend and may bring 1 witness. Failure to attend will result in the dismissal of your complaint and the assessment of a $250 administrative fee. I called Marcus immediately. They are scheduling a hearing. They are going to try to dismiss my complaint and fine me for filing it. That is standard intimidation, Marcus said. But it is also an opportunity. If you show up with your evidence packet, witnesses, and a clear argument, you can force the board to go on record. Bring copies for everyone. Bring the video. Bring the tow driver's statement if you can get it in writing. Make them defend Catherine's actions in front of other homeowners. What if they just vote to dismiss it anyway? Then you escalate. File a complaint with the state HOA ombudsman. File a complaint with the city if the tow was illegal. Sue for harassment and retaliation. But most boards do not want that kind of exposure. If you make it clear you are not going away, they will usually settle or make changes to avoid a lawsuit. I hung up and started preparing. I printed 20 copies of the evidence packet, including the video stills, the inconsistent door hangers, the timeline, Rachel's email from Catherine, and the tow driver's statement, which I had typed up from memory and was hoping he would sign. I put everything in a folder with tabs and a cover sheet that said Formal Complaint Evidence, Case 47293, Enforcement Abuse and Retaliation. Then I texted Rachel. Hearing is Saturday at 10. Are you willing to come as my witness? She replied, yes. I already got a notice. Catherine tried to call me 3 times today. I did not answer. Good, I said. Do not talk to her before the hearing. Let her dig her own hole. The next few days were tense. I kept checking my car in the public lot to make sure it had not been towed. I kept checking my door for new violation notices. Catherine left 2 more during that week. One claimed my trash cans were visible from the street, which was a lie because I had moved them inside the garage the day after the first tow attempt. The other claimed I had failed to display a guest parking pass correctly, even though I had not had any guests, and no guest parking pass existed. Each time, I photographed the notice, noted the timestamp, and added it to the evidence file. By the time Saturday arrived, I had 8 separate door hangers, all with conflicting dates, claims, and signatures. I arrived at the clubhouse at 9:45. The parking lot was half full, and I recognized a few faces from the neighborhood. Rachel and her husband were waiting by the front door. She looked nervous. Marcus had agreed to come as a second witness, even though the notice said I could only bring 1. I figured if they tried to kick him out, that would just be more evidence of procedural abuse. We went inside and found the meeting room. It was a long rectangular space with folding tables arranged in a U-shape. The board members were already seated at the head table. I recognized the president, a silver-haired man named Tom, and the treasurer, a woman named Linda. Catherine was seated at the far end, wearing her pink cardigan and a tight smile. She had her zip-tie bundle on the table in front of her like a prop. Tom called the meeting to order at 10. Thank you all for coming. We are here to address a formal complaint filed by a homeowner regarding enforcement actions taken by our Special Assessment Coordinator, Catherine Johnson. The homeowner has alleged procedural violations, retaliation, and inconsistent application of HOA rules. Catherine has provided a written response, which we will review. We will hear from both parties and then deliberate. Homeowner, you have 10 minutes to present your case. I stood up, walked to the front, and set the evidence folder on the table. I brought copies for everyone, I said. I distributed the folders to each board member. Catherine's smile tightened. Then I opened my laptop and connected it to the projector on the wall. I have video evidence of the incident that triggered this complaint. I would like to play a 3-minute excerpt. Tom nodded. Proceed. I played the section of the video where Catherine threatened me, refused to show me the authorization form, admitted the HOA does this all the time, and tried to intimidate the tow driver. The room was silent. When it finished, I paused the video and turned to face the board. That is Catherine Johnson, your Special Assessment Coordinator, on camera admitting that the HOA engages in routine enforcement actions without providing proper documentation or due process. She refused to show me the authorization form. She threatened retaliation. She attempted to coerce a tow driver into hooking my car without valid paperwork. And when the driver refused, she threatened to have his company dropped from the HOA contract. Catherine stood up, her face red. That video is taken out of context. I was enforcing a legitimate violation. The homeowner was hostile and refused to comply with a lawful order. I turned to her. What lawful order? You never showed me a signed authorization form. You never provided a copy of the complaint. The door hanger you left had a different date than the form you tried to show the driver. And when the driver asked you to reconcile the inconsistency, you refused. That is not enforcement. That is harassment. Tom held up a hand. Let us review the evidence before we debate. He opened the folder and started flipping through the pages. The other board members did the same. I watched their faces as they read. Linda's expression shifted from neutral to concerned. Tom's jaw tightened. The third board member, a younger man I did not recognize, shook his head slowly. After a few minutes, Tom looked up. Catherine, can you explain why there are 8 separate violation notices in 1 week, all with different claims and inconsistent dates? Catherine crossed her arms. The homeowner has been in ongoing violation of multiple rules. I issued notices as violations were observed. That is standard procedure. Tom held up 2 of the door hangers. This one says the violation occurred on the 15th. This one says it occurred on the 18th. But they are both dated the 16th. How is that possible? Catherine hesitated. That is an administrative error. The dates were transposed during processing. Tom set the hangers down. That is not an administrative error. That is either incompetence or fabrication. He turned to me. You mentioned a tow company complaint. Do you have any documentation of that? I nodded. The tow driver confirmed on camera that his company has received 3 complaints this week about improper tows from this HOA. I have a written statement from him describing the inconsistencies he observed and stating that his company is considering dropping the HOA contract to avoid further legal exposure. I also have an email from a witness, Rachel, who confirmed that Catherine has a history of targeting homeowners who question her authority. Rachel stood up. I can confirm that. Catherine has sent me multiple threatening emails over the past 6 months because I voted against one of her proposals. When I provided a witness statement for this complaint, she sent me an email demanding I retract it or face a formal hearing for defamation. I forwarded that email to the homeowner. It is in the evidence packet. Tom flipped to the email and read it. His expression darkened. Catherine, did you send this email? Catherine's voice was tight. I sent an email reminding Rachel of her obligations as a committee member to provide accurate information. Tom looked at her. This email threatens formal sanctions against a witness for cooperating with a homeowner complaint. That is retaliation. That is a violation of state HOA law. Catherine opened her mouth, closed it, and sat down. The room was silent. Tom looked at the other board members. I think we need to deliberate in executive session. Everyone except board members, please step outside for a few minutes. We filed out into the hallway. Rachel was shaking. Do you think they will do anything? I do not know, I said. But we made it impossible for them to ignore. 10 minutes later, Tom opened the door and called us back in. We have reviewed the evidence and deliberated. The board has decided to take the following actions. First, all enforcement actions against the homeowner in question are suspended immediately pending a full review of the Special Assessment Coordinator's procedures. Second, we are commissioning an independent management audit to review all enforcement actions taken over the past 18 months. Third, we are freezing all new enforcement actions until the audit is complete and new policies are in place. Fourth, Catherine Johnson is being placed on administrative leave from her role as Special Assessment Coordinator, effective immediately. Catherine shot to her feet. You cannot do this. I have served this board for 8 years. I have protected property values and maintained standards when no one else would. This is a witch hunt. Tom's voice was calm but firm. Catherine, you threatened a homeowner on camera. You retaliated against a witness. You authorized a tow without proper documentation. And the evidence suggests you have done this multiple times. The board cannot ignore that. You are on leave until the audit is complete. If the audit clears you, you will be reinstated. If it does not, we will discuss next steps. Catherine grabbed her zip-tie bundle and stormed out of the room. The door slammed behind her. Tom looked at me. We apologize for the distress this has caused. The board takes these matters seriously. You will receive a formal written apology and a refund of any fines or fees assessed during this period. If you have any further concerns, please contact the management company directly. I nodded, too stunned to say much. Thank you. We left the clubhouse and walked back to the parking lot. Rachel was grinning. That was incredible. You just took down Catherine Johnson. I shook my head. The audit took her down. I just gave them the evidence. Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. You did more than that. You forced them to act. Most people would have just paid the fines and moved on. You stood your ground and made them accountable. I drove home, parked my car back in my own driveway for the first time in a week, and went inside. I felt exhausted and wired at the same time. That evening, I got an email from the management company with the subject line, Records Request Case 47293. Attached were scanned copies of the board meeting minutes for the past 18 months. I opened them and started reading. It did not take long to find the gaps. There were no votes authorizing Catherine to issue tows. There were no enforcement action logs. There were no records of complaints being reviewed or approved by the board. Catherine had been acting unilaterally for at least a year, and the board had either not noticed or not cared until it became a liability. A week later, I got a call from the tow company owner. He introduced himself as Dave and said he wanted to apologize personally. I heard about what happened with your HOA. I am sorry my driver almost hooked your car. We are dropping the HOA contract, and we are refunding everyone who filed a complaint about an improper tow. We cannot afford to have our license pulled over this kind of thing. I appreciate that, I said. Your driver did the right thing by refusing to hook the car without proper paperwork. Yeah, he is a good guy, Dave said. But I should have caught this sooner. We have been getting complaints for months, and I did not take them seriously until the city got involved. That was on me. 2 weeks after the hearing, the management audit report came out. It was 17 pages long and documented a pattern of unauthorized enforcement actions, missing documentation, and selective targeting of homeowners who questioned HOA policies. Catherine had issued over 40 tows in the past year, none of them voted on or logged by the board. She had collected thousands of dollars in fines and fees that were either improperly assessed or not backed by valid violations. The report recommended her immediate removal from the board, a full refund to affected homeowners, and a rewrite of the enforcement policies to include mandatory board votes, documentation requirements, and an appeals process. The board accepted all the recommendations. A month after that, I was sitting on my porch when Rachel walked over with a printed copy of the latest HOA newsletter. She handed it to me with a grin. "Page 3, she said. I flipped to page 3 and saw a short announcement. The board of directors is pleased to announce new enforcement policies effective immediately. All tow authorizations must be voted on and documented in board minutes. All homeowners have the right to appeal violations and request a hearing before enforcement actions are taken. The HOA has retained a new tow vendor with a transparent fee structure and a commitment to proper documentation." I looked up at Rachel. They actually did it. She nodded. Catherine resigned from the board last week. Rumor is she is moving out of the neighborhood. Nobody wants to deal with her anymore. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long breath. The bright orange door hangers were gone. The tow truck threats were gone. Catherine's timeline had been proven false with timestamps, and a management audit had exposed the pattern. The HOA froze enforcement pending a policy rewrite, and the tow vendor got warned by the city for improper tows, refunded everyone, and dropped the HOA to protect their license. I still see Rachel and her husband on their porch sometimes, and we wave. The couple who filmed the confrontation moved away, but they sent me a message before they left saying they were glad someone finally stood up to Catherine. And me? I still live here. I still park in my own driveway. And I still keep my camera charged, just in case. I will bring you another one next time.